A couple at a crossroads in their relationship contract a curse that physically draws them to one another and fuses their flesh in grotesque body horror fashion. Unless, of course, they can find a way to fight it. Join us, but not too closely, as we discuss Together. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hopefully we don't join too much tonight, like more than we expected.
A little bit's fine.
A little bit.
My hand inside one of your body parts.
That sentence was a little creepier than I was hoping for, frankly. Yes, this is a horror movie show, everyone. We get together, we talk about a film, it's that simple, and this week we are looking at Together, which is, the title doesn't give you too much if you don't know what the movie's about, but it is a body horror movie about a couple who, which we'll get into later in spoilers why it's happening, but for some reason their body seems determined to fuse together, and it's a lot of body horror of like stuff connecting between them and them trying to separate it again. So we'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get to the spoilers, and of course if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, please do hit the like button, helps out a bunch if you do. And of course you can support the show over at Patreon or via becoming a YouTube member and you get bonus stuff, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So yeah, so I guess the other thing to mainly note about this is that this stars real-life couple, Alison Brie and Dave Franco, which, I mean, it doesn't really matters all that much, but they maybe they really wanted to do a movie together, and I hope the relationship's in a good place, because this movie's very much about a couple who are in a not-so-healthy relationship, is kind of part of the point, so we'll get to that. That said, though, forget all that. The funniest thing about this movie, and this actually was something that I was laughing at when the trailer came up for the first time in the theater, when I saw it maybe a couple months ago. But the husband, well, actually they're not married. The boy partner, yeah, his name is Tim, which led to a lot of hilarity for me. Particularly the line, "Now Tim, don't do anything stupid." Like lines like that popped me because I can't hear the name Tim and not think of your like silly face just popping into my head.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's not a very, unique name. It's a pretty common name, but I still can't think of a ton of movies where, the character, or especially a main character, has the same name as me, so it was kind of a shock every time they would say it. And then of course it has to be a movie like this where the main guy's kind of a loser,
what I just, for the curious, there's a list on Watch Mojo, right? I typed in movie characters named Tim. They've got a top 10 characters named Tim. Timmy Turner from Fairly Odd Parents. Unfamiliar with it.
Okay. That's like a cartoon. I don't know if that's like a movie though.
Yeah, I think they're being quite wide with this. In fact, number 2 is a TV show. Tim Taylor for Home Improvement. That's Tim Tillman, of course. Then we got Tim the Magic School Bus, which is also a TV show, I believe. And then it says add to list. So it's not actually a top 10. It just says that at the top. So we got 3, and they're all from TV shows.
And I feel like a lot of them, there's a lot of Timmy's for little kids stuff. Obviously the South Park Timmy was a big one that came out when I was a kid.
Also, Alison Brie's
not a lot of
Alison Brie's character is a teacher, which I'm just saying. There's a lot of, Tim's life kind of in this.
Yeah, there's that. Those similar, and then, there's some rat stuff in there, which I don't know if people remember, but I might have mentioned it before, but I kind of have like a fear of rats. So he's like going on this monologue about rats. I'm like, this is hitting a little too close to home.
Yeah, it's just instead of being a failed musician, you're a failed comedian.
Yeah, comedian, writer, podcaster, insert whatever.
This is going very well. What are you talking about? This is going swimmingly. So,
Sure.
yeah, I don't know. It was the sort of thing, because of the name Tim, it kind of opened into this bouquet of like, there was a moment in the movie where it clicked. Wait, she's a teacher. Tim's wife's a teacher. This is kind of funny. I hope they're doing okay, because this movie's not painting a pretty picture.
We did get one of our rare days because we actually saw this in the afternoon, but we did get to go see it together, and luckily we came out and had a good chuckle about it. We didn't have to examine our relationship or anything, so that's good news.
Did she audibly laugh at the line, "Tim, don't do anything stupid when I'm away"? Was that something that got a chuckle out of her?
Yeah, she kind of gave me like a little side eye, like kind of.
Yes. Anyway, we'll get into our feelings on the movie. Enough dilly-dallied. So, trailer, I didn't really know anything about this until I saw the trailer. It just kind of came out of nowhere. And the premise seemed interesting. The premise seemed kind of unique. And like, oh, that seems kind of weird and possibly fun and gross and whatever. But went in fairly blind otherwise. Didn't even know what the consensus was. So the reason why we're doing this week, because it came out 2 weeks ago in the US, but it only just came out this past weekend in the UK. So we thought we might have to wait until it was available at home, but Tim still had some showings left, so we were able to squeeze it in for this week.
Yeah, there were the showings are getting like a little scattershot, but I actually thought the trailer was really good, so that's why I kind of was okay with making an effort to see this, because like you said, I didn't know much about it, and even when they announced it, so much of the things that they were talking about was less like, about the premise of the movie and more about like, oh, can you believe that this real life couple is in this movie, which like I could care less. Like, I mean, cool. I hope it's fun for them. I don't really have any strong feelings about Dave Franco. He's fine, I guess, but I don't really care. Like, Alison Brie, I like Community a lot, and like Glow was fun. So like, I'm not like a diehard like, oh, I have to see everything she does, but I like her enough. So,
I like those shows as well. So I would say I'm a fan of Alison Brie, maybe a bit strong, but I certainly have liked many of the things she's been in. Dave Franco, he's got kind of an unlikable face. I'll say that. Yeah. But I mean, I don't feel too strongly one way or the other than that notion.
And I guess for a while I thought that he like directed the movie, because he directed another horror movie before, right? Didn't he do that one? Was it like The Rental or something?
Yeah, which Alison Brie was in as well. He wasn't in that though. He just directed that. So Michael Shanks directs this, which I don't think I'm not familiar with.
I don't think I'd heard him before.
It's his first time doing a movie. He's done some shorts and stuff, but this is his first movie.
But like I was kind of saying before, I didn't really know much going in, but one of the reasons why I really wanted to see it was because I thought the trailer was actually really well done, and made it seem like, there's going to be a lot of like crazy body horror stuff, and it looked pretty fun. So, I was kind of psyched to see it going in, I guess.
Well, that leads in nicely to the question. Tim, what did you think of Together?
So my hopes were actually like pretty high. I hadn't heard I don't think I heard many negative things. I think the most I'd heard is like some people saying it was just kind of okay or fine. I knew a few people though that actually like loved it. Like my brother for one was a big fan of it. So yeah, fairly high hopes going in, and I gotta say I was pretty let down. I don't think it's horrible. Like the movie itself is perfectly fine. I guess from the trailer though, I was expecting something like really crazy and trippy, but I do kind of feel like all the crazy body horror stuff was kind of just spoiled in the trailer, and then most of the new stuff while watching the movie was just like these kind of long drawn out dramatic like awkward conversations about their shitty relationship and dealing with trauma and all this stuff that I just didn't really care about. And it might have not been that bad if I felt more for the characters, but I mean, and again, I can relate, but I just feel like Tim was so unlikable. Like, I'm sorry, dude, but if the biggest problem in your life is that, your girlfriend wants to have sex with you, like, I don't know, I don't really feel too bad for you. I don't know. It was just like, I don't know. It just felt like overdone and just, I didn't care. I just really wanted to get to the body horror. And then when they did, it just, like, there was some cool stuff, but then, I don't know, it also kind of felt quick. And then, I don't know, there'd be like long parts in between where it's like doing stuff that I don't care about. And then I never really got like a clear sense of the kind of rules of, like, we'll get into the why and stuff of spoilers, but I don't know, I still have questions about how a lot of the stuff works. And I do kind of think like the big final, I guess, shocking like scene at the end, like, looked pretty bad. Like, I was like, oh, like, most of the stuff before I thought was like pretty cool or fine, but I don't know, that kind of one last thing at the end, I was like, oh, this is like really doesn't look good. The special effects are bad here. And I don't know, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, I wouldn't say I was like angry or super mad, but I just felt kind of disappointed with this one. I was expecting something a lot more wild and trippy, and I don't know, ended up with something that's just like, oh, it was okay, I guess.
Yeah. Well. Where do I start? So I'll start with the positive. I do think the body horror stuff, when it happens, is generally good, and kind of fun, and I do think the premise in general feels quite fresh. Like, I can't think of a movie with the same premise or a similar premise off the top of my head, so it never felt like as I was watching it, as much as maybe you could compare some of the like explanations as to why it's happening similar to other types of movie, I never felt like, I always felt like I was watching something kind of unique, and it kind of kept the core premise kind of interesting to me. That said, though, there is some problems that kind of like keep it from being like great or even very good. Because I think at times it is good, but there are some problems. One is that I appreciate the entire thing, obviously coming with this subtext of being about this relationship where, the guy's not really sure if he still wants to be in the relationship, and they're making this big commitment. They're moving across, state or whatever to go to where her new job is, and he's not sure if he wants to do it, but he's doing it anyway, but he feels kind of trapped in this relationship. So the whole movie's literally like pulling them together physically, is a representation of like, being stuck with each other kind of thing. And it's like, okay, right, I appreciate that. I think there's a couple of alright things at the start to kind of set up these like ideas and themes before we even get to the horror stuff. The problem is, though, is that it lays it on so thick constantly, the entire movie, that by the time like it's getting to some big payoffs, I was kind of like just a little, I had a bit of a bad taste of just how much it was like, because at a certain point it wasn't even subtext anymore. It was like the movie was like talking down to me and explaining, like, these are the themes of this movie, you dumb audience. Like, you understand it, get it. Yeah. So there's that. I think there's some humor for me in this. Rubbed me the wrong way as well. Some comedy that just did not work for me. There's a couple of specific moments and spoilers that I'll get to, but I had the problem with some of that. And I don't know if my problem was the same as yours as far as like the ending goes, because you're complaining specifically about the effects. I just think the ending sucks, like, regardless of effects. So that's like, the ending definitely left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. And I think part of it as well is that they try and sort of wrap up the character story of like where they are by the end for their big dramatic ending. And because I found him so unlikable, and it's not like she's this angel either, she's just not as unlikable as him. And I found, like, I'll put it this way, I was not rooting for them to work it out. right? I didn't want that, right? I found the relationship so unpleasant that I was hoping for some sort of nasty ending for them both, or at least him. So any attempts to like pretend that I cared about them, like, you know, finding their love again or anything like that, left me feeling completely cold. And so it really dampened a lot of any of the dramatic stuff they tried to do right before the ending or during the ending. So yeah, I'm pretty lukewarm overall, even though I do think the premise is quite unique, and I think there's good scenes in it. There's a few scenes that I'm going to say, hey, that was really cool, and that was a really well done, like, gross bit where I was going, ee, and ah, and stuff. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I feel pretty much the same way. And then, you know, and the thing that kind of stinks is I was so excited because of the trailer, but I feel like a lot of the best stuff was given away in the trailer. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is the scene that, you know, I was waiting for or whatever. Like, you know, there was other, you know, stuff that I guess was surprises, but I feel like a lot of the big cool stuff, you know, I was already kind of aware of.
There's a few good jump scares. I'll say that much. I'll give it a couple of points for that. But alternatively, I also think it's a bit overwritten, and this maybe ties into the whole it lays it on too thick with the relationship themes and subtext. But even just, there's one point where he tells a dramatic backstory, like, about his childhood, and it just felt like, someone's so proud of this speech that he's saying right now, and I just think it's a little bit cliched and lame. There's a little bit of that going on. Yeah, I saw someone say this is like a really millennial movie. It feels like there's tons of references to stuff that millennials will get. And the fact that a Spice Girls song ends up being a pivotal plot point just kind of like, I was like, yeah, I kind of see what they're saying, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it is weird. Like you said, there is a very obvious metaphor, which it's not a bad one, but yeah, like they could have been a lot more subtle, like instead of just beating you over the head with it. Like, yeah, it gets to the point where it's like, okay, I get it, like, can we go on with the movie? And then it does make the ending really weird, though, because I'm like, well, if this is kind of what you were setting up before, then like, what are you trying to say with the ending here? It's kind of weird. Again, we'll talk about that in spoilers, but yeah, also, I don't know, I didn't really feel like they did a good job of like setting up I don't know, the characters and the relationship, like because like it's very obvious, like, from the start that, yeah, it's a bad relationship and they should break up and stuff, but like, I don't know, I never really got a sense of that, like, okay, like, you know, like, is there one person that's more to blame or the other? Like, or like, yeah, should we not like Alison Brie? Like, you know, it doesn't seem like she's, you know, controlling or, yeah, like, you know, mean or anything. Like, she actually seems like a, you know, pretty decent girlfriend. And then, I don't know, his problem is just, he's just so mopey and like, seems like he just can never like express his feelings or whatever. But again, it's like, has the relationship always been like this? Like, I mean, I think we're supposed to get the feeling that it's just one of those relationships that's gone on too long, and, you know, they should have ended it, which is fine. But I don't know, I just feel like I never got like much sense of, I don't know, where they're coming from.
This goes back on to leaning on too thick, where if like it was a bit more subtle that he is maybe feeling like he's not sure about these big changes, but they do so many big things, like, because the very first thing they do I actually quite liked, which is that she mentions to him, because they're having like a going away party with all their friends in the city because they live in New York to start with. And she mentions, hey, everyone's joking about how we match, and they think it's cute because they're wearing kind of similar outfits, right? Similar color top, jacket, similar colored, you know, bottoms, whatever. And it cuts to him going back to the party after they've had this conversation, and he's like just putting on a new jacket, and he's like, oh, he's went out of his way to not match anymore. He didn't like that. And I thought, oh, that was actually kind of nice, and I wouldn't say subtle, but it was like a sort of thing that wasn't like, you know, screaming, he's unhappy, there's, you know, all this. But then, I don't want to spoil it, but the thing that actually happens at the party, which is really awkward and cringy, is like, oh no, like, instead of just giving me this little sign, this little signal that there's some unhappiness, you've instead done a big, like, Las Vegas neon, like, you know, landing strip of like, this is what we're doing in the movie, everyone. This is what where we're going with it. It kind of almost felt like even just from like a character perspective, they laid it on so thick before they even move that I really think Alison Brie's character should have been like, maybe we should just break up. Like, we should just break up now. And she kind of brings it up, actually, but like they still don't do anything with it, and it just makes. I think part of it is that it feels too one-sided. It feels all on him, which is not necessarily terrible if the movie's definitively saying he's the main character, he's the one who's going to go through the arc, and he's the one that's going to learn things about himself and change and so on and so on. But it made it very hard to care about what, rooting for the relationship and wanting the relationship to work itself out and get to it. But at certain points I was thinking in my head, comparing it a little bit to Midsummer and thinking about how much I like. But that movie, like, yeah, that boyfriend sucks in that movie, but he's supposed to, and you're kind of like, waiting for the comeuppance almost of like, him being shitty and not having the balls to just end it. But this movie's not actually going in that direction. This movie wants you to care and wants you to want them to like work things out and like get back together. And I just don't think I was ever going to feel that based on how thick they laid on everything, especially early on.
Yeah, I mean, like Midsummer is a great example of like, it's not like they're being subtle about stuff in that one either. But I don't know, it just felt more believable, and you kind of, even though like one side is much shittier, you kind of get where like both sides are coming from, and I like that one. It just feel a lot more like versus here, where I just really did not feel myself like caring at all. And it is a shame because, like you said before, like I think this is a terrific premise, and like it could lead to like a lot of really cool body horror stuff, and there's definitely cool stuff in the movie. I kind of wish there would have been a bit more, but I mean there still was like some pretty decent stuff. But it's a shame that it's not like an automatic home run, which again, just going from the trailer, I thought it was going to be. Like, I was really psyched for like how cool it looked, and just fell a little bit flat.
Yeah. I do wonder if you'd feel that there should have been more if it wasn't for the fact that you felt like you'd seen all the, like, at least bits of all the body horror stuff in the trailer. I wonder if it would have felt fine if like half of that stuff hadn't been in the trailer. Maybe you'd feel like it was just the right amount. I don't know. I'm not saying I for sure would feel that way. I'm just kind of pondering the possibility because I'm not sure.
Yeah, or if the characters were more engaging, it might have maybe lifted those scenes up a bit more, or I might have not cared as much in between scenes or whatever.
I mean, I definitely think like if I cared about these two characters the way the movie wanted me to, I don't think I'd be having a problem anywhere nearly as much.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah,
that's the biggest miss of it, really.
Yeah. And going back to something you said too about like some of the jokes and stuff not landing, it did have a weird like discrepancy between the tones at times, where because it is like so deadly serious like for a lot of the movie. It's just very like maudlin, and then when it does like go to these like weird goofier scenes, it doesn't like feel like a natural progression. It just feels like a weird like whiplash where it's like, oh, like we're just really serious, and now like you're doing this kind of goofy thing. It's kind of weird, which it's kind of funny because the last movie we did, I don't know if it'll be the same order, but we just saw Weapons recently, and I thought that did such a good job of like blending seriousness with like humor and everything, and this, it just felt like, oh, it's weird that all of a sudden you're like being kind of goofy or doing a joke or something now.
Yeah, there was one moment in particular that really took me out of it, where it kind of threw something in, and I could not only just feel like it being forced, but it felt very forced in like this is like a very like Hollywood improv, like we think this is funny, so we're going to have someone say this line, and I just like it just rubbed me the wrong way completely. Kind of in the same way that laying on like the speech about his childhood and stuff, it feels too thick and too overwritten. It just kind of feels like. I don't know how much, I mean, if I'm going to check the credits. No, I mean, it just says written by Michael Shanks, who's also the director, but I really wonder how much, like, improv or on-set, like, input the two actors had. It kind of feels like actors just having a field day and saying, we could do this, we could do this. Also, this is just weird, but I feel like there's so many, like, like real life couples that when they're in a movie together as a couple, I just feel like there's not that much chemistry, and I don't know, what that says or what, but just on-screen chemistry between these two just doesn't really feel like it's there. It's not the first time I felt that about a real life couple either, and I don't know if it's like, I don't know, because presumably they have chemistry in real life. They've been a couple for years. I think they're married even. So I don't know, but you would think that would add some intensity and like, oh, like they could just really be kissing in the scene because they're married. So why not just really go for it? Like, but I don't know. It didn't really do anything. It didn't add anything for me.
Yeah, maybe it's something where like they're almost too comfortable with each other, or something that, I don't know. Probably better if you're like, you fall in love on set, where like you start to form chemistry or something, like Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson and then you Naked Gun.
The model for all future relationships in Hollywood. Maybe it's just something about like, if you've been together for years, like you might have like a comfort with each other, but like that spark of like like romance isn't quite the same as it was when you first met each other or something. I don't know. Just kind of pondering that, if nothing else. But hey, as far as anything else goes, I mean, I think the scenes are directed well enough. I didn't really have a problem with anything on that front, That
looked good for the most part, and
no real critiques there. I mean, I think we're probably just a bit ready to get into spoilers then, but I'm kind of lukewarm. Like, I think there's some really good things in it, but like enough of it, especially by the end, it was a sort of thing where it wasn't like these complaints I had, it wasn't like they were instantly hitting me that hard early on. I was kind of like, okay, this is a bit overwritten, this scene, but we're building up to the horror stuff, and obviously even when I'm thinking, oh, he's telling this story about his childhood, it's a little bit overdone. In that moment though, I was still thinking, yeah, but we've not got to the horror stuff yet. We've not got to the body horror. Once that stuff hits, maybe this is going to be an all-timer, and I wouldn't really care that there was a little bit of overwritten backstory before that point. But by the time we got to the end, I definitely feel like all that overwriting really started to negatively impact how I cared about the characters, and kind of thinking that the final like plot beats the movie wanted to make just were kind of like, this is a bit lame actually, and I wasn't super into it, and it almost kind of murkies like the message of the movie in some ways, the ending. But we'll get into
I agree.
all that stuff. So spoilers for Together, you have been warned. So we'll get into stuff. So there's a little bit of backstory at the start of the movie where another couples went missing, presumably the same things happened to them, and it teases this joining together by these two dogs that drink out of like a pit in this cave. That they're in the woods looking for this missing couple. These two dogs, these search dogs, drink from it, and that night we get like a quick glimpse of them merging together. It's very The Thing, and it just cuts to the title, and then it goes into like introducing the characters and whatnot. Which is really where we need to start talking about stuff, because like for me, the whole thing, right? Obviously, he's like not really feeling that confident about moving to this other like place, and he's going to be away from the city, and he's got this music career that he wants to keep pursuing. But it's when she proposes to him, she gets down on one knee and proposes to him in front of their room full of friends, and he just kind of freezes, and then everyone gets awkward, and it gets kind of cringy. And it's not until she gets back up with like a sad face where he kind of goes, oh yes, yes, of course, yes, and he kind of tries to save it at the last possible second. Like I was like, okay, you've like, I already got that they're in a rough place and that they're not maybe feeling on the same page about where they're going with their lives, but this scene was so like, yeah, how, like, I don't know if you could recover from this. This was like if it was like a private like thing where she tried to propose and he kind of like got weird and like they weren't sure to, like, maybe they could get past that, but he, like, this happened in front of everyone they know, and like the movie just kind of expects you to roll with it. And like, she, after a little conversation in bed where she's like, oh, maybe we should split because it'll be harder later, haha, get it, movie, because they're going to be physically connected later. But yeah, I don't know, how did you feel about this segment?
Yeah, I did think it was a little bit too much, and I think he probably could have recovered a bit if he had just not said anything and then was just like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm like in shock or whatever. But instead, I think he says like, are you joking? Which that's pretty bad. Like if that's your first reaction, you know, it's like that is tough.
I think it depends on the delivery. I think, like, especially because typically the man proposes to the woman, right? So if you turned around and saw the woman kneeling down, like, I think if you just sort of, like, in a nice way kind of went, wait, are you joking right now? What? Is this happening? Like, I think there's a way you could say that and it not be, like, you know, bad. It would just be kind of like, clearly you're just sort of taking in the shock of, like, I definitely did not expect this because I thought I was going to do it. But... you know, obviously from that point on, he just freezes. He just stares and like has nothing to say. You know, like I think if he said, "Are you joking?" and then like took a second and said yes and smiled, wouldn't matter that he said, "Are you joking?" It would be like,
oh sure, yeah,
completely fine because he just as soon as it dawned on them what was happening, he said what you know the correct response. Assuming he wanted to get married, obviously, which I mean, admittedly, in this moment he doesn't, which is part of the problem. But then again, what happens if he says no? I mean, it's already awkward, but that would be especially awkward.
I mean, I think the move here would be like, if it's ever in public, I feel like you have to just kind of say yes, and then if you don't want to do it later, have a conversation. Because otherwise it's just like too devastating to. I don't know. I feel like everyone involved.
just say, can I give you a maybe?
Yeah. I wonder what would be worse if like just like a flat out no, or if you're like, oh, can we talk about this in private? Like, is that like almost worse?
That may be because everyone in the room kind of knows what that means. You know, everyone's going to get it. Like, I think the only way this wouldn't feel bad is if it's just a complete and utter yes, like a complete I'm happy, I want this. Anything other than that is going to feel at least a little bit awkward with the crowd. Like it just is. Which is why I have never understood anyone who wants to propose in front of like a restaurant or a room full of people. I'm like, no, I am doing that shit in private as a one-on-one thing. Not just because, like, the potential humiliation of a no, right? Like, that's obviously there. But just because it feels like an intimate moment. I don't want anyone else to share that with us. That's a me and you thing.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah. The you being the hypothetical woman in this situation, not Tim, just for anyone who was unclear with that. That said, though, I would love to see Tim's face if he turned around and I was down on one knee. I do think it'd be a sight.
We'll have to plan for that next time.
And when Tim says, "Are you serious?" I'm just going to be like, I have never been more serious in all my life about tying my shoelaces. Anyway, so... anyway, so that sets up the story, and like they're lying in bed, and like it's awkward, it's weird. The only thing I want to mention here, other than of course like her saying should we just split up if this is how you're feeling, and him being like no, I don't want that, and it's like okay, we're super convinced, very good. But when he's kind of like saying he wants this and all that, it's like she tries to sort of like initiate sex, and she sort of leans in, and this is the thing, is that. This is the other part of the movie talking down to us a little bit too much and explaining things too much. Is earlier on, before she did the proposal, she was talking to her friend, and the friend said something like, wait, how long has it been since you two guys even... And she kind of gets cut off, and she doesn't let her finish the sentence. But I'm like, why did we need to have a character actually ask the question? Like, her friend knows their sex life is, like, dry right now. Like... Just having this moment where clearly, like, she's disappointed that, like, because it seems like not for the first time he said no, like, or not even saying no, just saying like, oh, I can't, I've drank too much, and then she's disappointed. That would be fine. That said, though, and this plays into his attitude, I suppose, more than it being like a weird mistake or whatever. But I did think he cut because he basically pretends that he can't, but he does it so quick that I'm like, wait. Her hand goes like down there, right? And immediately, like in a second, he says, "Oh, I think I drank too much. I don't think it's happening." And he turns around, and it's ends in this cold note. And I thought, like she did it. She might have like tapped it, Like, I don't think it's a bit quick to call, like, I can't get it up. Like, I feel like give it at least 30 seconds before you're thrown in the towel and don't feel anything.
Yeah. Also, don't be selfish. I mean, if you course. There's other things you can do that doesn't involve your thing. That's
true. See to her needs. I fully agree. But like, just I mean, obviously, I don't think the movie's saying that this is like how quick, like you would know. It's more just him immediately saying, "Oh, it's not going to happen." It's much more about his character than it is anything else. But it's just so absurdly quick that I'm like, no wonder she's pissed. Like, it's not like see if she'd been like fondling it for like a good minute and like nothing, then sure. At that point, clearly, little Timmy's not coming up to play. Okay, right? And you could call it there. But anyway, I'll say it has a little nightmare sequence here that I did think was effectively shot. They do this thing where it becomes like a long bed, and he looks down the other end of the bed, and it turns out to be his parents. We find out who died somewhat recently. But she's like, the mum's just sort of sitting at the other end of the bed staring, and then he like, lifts up the cover and her face is right there. It's it's pretty typical jump scare stuff, but I thought the direction was good enough that I found it kind of creepy looking and the jump scare to be effective. Yeah. All right. Cool. Glad we're on the same page on that. So yeah, they've moved to the small town. It's obviously this small town with country around in it, forests, woods, all that stuff. And she's got a job at a new school as a teacher. He has agreed to be in her brother's band, so he's going to have to get like the train back to the city for rehearsals and stuff like that, which is kind of this weird like strain as well. It's like, oh, he's still living with one foot in the city and yada yada. He's not really committing to all this. And it's something she brings up later, actually, is like, hey, like, we've been together for about 10 years now, right? We've been together since we were about 25, and I have been constantly sacrificing stuff so that you could try and be like a music star. You've had like demos, albums, you've been on tour before, stuff like that. And he's like, oh, I have to go to this small town and do this because you're going to be a teacher. Oh, life's so tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. At no point does he ever really come off as like being super likable or like, I don't know. Like, I never felt bad that his dreams are not where they want to be, because it's just like, yeah, it doesn't seem like you're like focusing on the right thing, and then if you really want to pursue it, then maybe it would be best if probably for both of you if you break up and stuff. Like I never really had much, I don't know, like empathy or anything for him.
It's sort of thing like if he was like still nice to her, which admittedly would ruin all the movie's themes, but if he was still like a decent person to her and still really cared about her, it would be like, okay, like he's got all these dreams, it's not quite worked out, but he's still a nice person, so you could still kind of root for him to want those things, like, never give up, whatever. But because he's kind of like shitty to her and he feels like he's butthurt about anything that's getting in the way of what he wants. I mean, one of the good examples of this is that when they do go for their hike and they fall into this hole where they're sort of trapped because the weather's bad, and he ends up drinking from the water that's going to cause all this shit. Like when he lands and his phone's in water, he's like, "No, my demos were on there," and she's like, "Oh, I'm fine, by the way." It's like, okay, right. Again, you're laying it on very thick. And he's like, "Oh yeah, of course. Are you okay?" Like, I mean, clearly she's fine by now. Too late. Right, for a start. And this is the thing, like, these things were complained about also, like, yeah, this is the point of the movie, and it is. The problem isn't that these things are there, like, on their own. The problem is that all these things are all there, so it's like I said, laying it on so thick constantly, where every single scene there's like at least one line of dialogue or one exchange between them where she says something about their new life together, and he like either kind of ignores it, isn't caring about it, or says something about making sure he gets back to the city. One of the plot points in the movie is that he can't drive, so he needs her to drive him to the train station so that he can go back to the city for his rehearsals and stuff. And it feels like it's constantly got lines like that where It's like kind of waving a flag in your face and saying, hey, keep in mind, this is what these two characters are. This is how they feel about each other. This is how they both feel about the relationship. And it's important to set that stuff up, but it's like so much in every single scene. Even when they're not in a scene together, even when she goes to her first day at the school and she meets her sort of third, not main character, but like her main supporting character, who's this other teacher named Jamie. He, like, you know, even when he's asking about, like, you know, oh, so are you married? Are you here with or your husband or even wife? And, you know, she does the whole awkward, oh, he's not, you know, I mean, boyfriend seems immature. He's my boy partner. And that kind of becomes like a running little like exchange between them. Even like her conversations with other people in scenes that he's not in still feel like it's laying on everything too thick. It's like you're almost waving to this person you've just met, hey, I've got relationship problems right now. Things aren't okay at home. Yeah. And it feels just a little bit almost oppressive, just how much the movie is like assaulting you with how bad the relationship is right now.
Yeah, like you need to balance it out with like some good stuff too. So it's like, okay, like there's a little glimmer of what their relationship used to be like, or why. The thing is, it feels like both of them so badly want out that it just makes you scream like, wait, why are you still together? You know, like I feel like there had to be like, you know, if there was one person that was maybe a bit more interested, but, you know, like he obviously doesn't want to be in the relationship, and then Alison Brie doesn't really feel like, you know, she's super into it either. So it's just like,
she feels delusional to me. It feels like she's like in denial that is in the place it is. Like she's pretending they're in like we're in our mid-30s, we're taking that next stage of our life where we're settling down, and she still keeps trying to convince herself that that's like what he's also there for. But every single scene he keeps doing stuff or saying stuff to remind her, no, I'm kind of, you know, not into this. And, you know, it leads to like a bunch of stuff. Like the scene like a little bit later when the teacher comes over to like, you know, welcome to the neighborhood, because he's also like living in the same street, and he brings them a bottle of wine and they end up having dinner together, the three of them. Like they end up having this awkward bickering match where it starts off with joking about each other, but it kind of turns into him saying that he feels trapped because he can't drive and he has to rely on her, which is perfect for her because I can cook and I'm like her little slave that stays at home. And that's not the exact wording he uses, but that's kind of the implication. And it's just this awkward exchange that, again, just kind of like further... And again, there should be like a crescendo. There should be like build up where as we're getting later in the movie, it feels like, yeah, they're really starting to like get to the feelings and like the nitty gritty about where they're at and have that stuff explode, erupt, and all that. But the problem is that it's been laying it on so thick, and you know, like I've been saying since the start, I'm not rooting for them to get back together or to like fix the relationship. Like if anything, I want an ending where they're like so far removed from each other that like that seems like the healthy choice here. But the movie's determined to railroad us into no, they are for each other, and we're going to like have them. We're going to quote the Spice Girls song that they play at the end. They want two to become one. So that's where we're going with this. So yeah, I mean, yeah. So basically, they go for a hike. They fall in this pit. This is where he opens up about his childhood, because one of the things that happened when they first arrived is that he found a pile of connected dead rats in the ceiling above the lighting fixture. And he basically says he recognized the smell because when he was a kid, he had a dead rat above his light in his room, and his dad was obsessed with it and kept smelling it. And he didn't even notice he was smelling it. And the whole bit here is he's like, yeah, and then when I found my dead parents, my mum was still alive, actually, and she had just been lying next to my dad's dead body, because just like the rat, like, she was living next to something that was dead, and couldn't even tell that it smelled bad, that it was a rotten corpse. And I get it. The relationship's a rotten corpse. Yeah. Like, you know, this thing is dead. It's time to move on. Well, see when your movie's comparing the relationship to living in the room with a dead rat, like, I feel like you're laying it on so thick that I that the movie's telling me to not want this relationship to work out. Like, that's not we've got troubles. That's like, no, this is bad. This is bad for your health. Literally. Get away from each other.
Yeah. I will give it a little bit of credit. Again, I do have like a phobia of rats. They do freak me out. So the scene with him pulling the rat out, like, it did, get me a little bit. I was like, oh, that's gross. And then there's like a little bit of a jump scare where it, like, makes a noise or something, and that got me a little bit.
Yeah. I wasn't like super into the stuff with them in the cave. That was kind of dragging a little bit for me. Once they get back though, and it's clear, he so this is the important detail here, is that he drank from the water and she didn't. Right? That's an important detail to mention here.
So I don't know if this is a good time. Do you want to try to parse out exactly how this water works?
I mean,
I feel like I have a lot of questions.
That's as good a place as any, because I mean, they sort of like establish, because they fall asleep next to each other in the cave, and when they wake up, their legs have kind of fused together, right? So it hurts, and he writes it off as, oh, it's some sort of mildew in the cave, but like they have to like separate their leg, and it's all sort of like sticky and gooey, and it kind of hurts. It leaves a bit of a scar on both their legs. It's like, okay, that's cool. It's the first like sort of minor example of this stuff happening. That's okay. And I think the movie went out of its way to sort of like say that he drank from the water, made it kind of unclear if she did or she didn't, to be honest. But I think because the way the movie progresses for the next like 20-30 minutes, I think it's pretty clear she didn't. It seems to be only him that's affected by it, because he's the one that is like constantly like acting weird, being drawn to her, like he's like it's magnetic for him to go to her. And I thought something they were going to do here, which they kind of dropped, but I thought they were setting up, is that they literally can't get too far apart, because there's the whole bit here where he goes into the shower and she says, I'm going to go into town to get some supplies when they get back up to the house, and like he starts like sort of like slamming against the shower wall because it's like she's driving too far away, and he's like trying to like magnetically pull towards her. Instead, it kind of just ends, and then he ends up going to the doctor and gets his Xanax for it, because he had like the doctor just thinks it's like a panic attack and like stress and stuff. But so because I thought that was going to be a mechanic, because I think my impression from the trailer is that they were going to be stuck kind of at the house for most of the movie and they couldn't leave. And I thought this was setting up that they physically can't get too far apart from each other. But then the movie kind of plays like, no, she's going to work, he's sort of sticking around, but he's acting kind of weird, and he's like sort of being drawn to her, and other stuff like that.
I mean, it definitely seems a little bit murky because, Dave Franco is more of the focus, and he seems to be having the bigger reactions, but then it does get to a point too where it seems like she's also having some issues, like when she's behind like the glass door and kind of trying to get in, or like they're sleeping in the separate rooms.
Well, but that notably happens after something though.
Okay. Okay. I think I see what you're saying then.
Yeah.
so it spreads to her.
Well, no, it doesn't spread to her. She goes to the teacher's house, who turns out to be a cult member and villain.
Gotcha.
He gives her a glass of water, and the movie really emphasizes her drinking this glass of water like multiple times. I think he's given her that in that scene, and this is from that point on that she also starts having this, magnetism to Dave Franco, and she's like, acting weird from that point on.
So I'm guessing the water. So how does it determine who, like, you're attracted to? Like, does it have to be like someone that you're in love with?
I think that's what the movie's saying, yeah, because like I think the teacher gives it to her as he's also drinking it, and I think the idea is that he wants them to connect, because earlier on when they met for the dinner and all that, Dave Franco immediately afterwards was like, I think he likes you, I think he's into you, kind of thing, which almost like turns her on, not because she's into the teacher, but it's just like, oh, you're jealous. This is the most interest you've shown in me in ages. So they start kissing, and then it deflates when he kind of like sort of like weirds out because and partly because of the magic water that's making him feel weird, but it makes her feel bad again, and she's like, oh, if you don't want to F me, just be honest about it, and storms off. But I think the idea is that Jamie the teacher, wants to bond with her because he was part of this cult that was all about because he brings up, because as soon as he brought up Plato's quote about how we're really supposed to be beings with 2 heads and 8 limbs, but we get separated. So you spend your whole life looking for your other half. I was like, okay, you were part of this cult. Because obviously this hole they fall into, there's kind of parts of it that look like an old church, and there's all these bells everywhere with symbols on them. It's like, okay, this is clearly what's behind all this stuff, and like why this connecting shit's going to start happening down the line.
And I'll just say, I did not like any of this like backstory stuff. I thought it was just way too much. Like I'm totally fine if it's like, oh, there's just like some weird water that does this body horror stuff. Like, I mean, I say no more. Like, I'm okay. It just felt so forced. As like, oh yeah, there's a cult, and then like that scene where she goes to his house and it's like, oh, it just happens to be like all creepy and the videotape is playing and the guy, and he just happened to have it like on the right moment when you walk in. Like, I don't know, that just felt like too, like, trying too hard.
I agree with that part, I guess. I was fine with it when it was just, oh, there used to be a cult out there and all these creepy bells come from that cult, and like they were worshipping something related to like people joining together. I was fine with it up until that point. Then once it got more specific, I was kind of like, okay, we're going to... Because I think there had to be something to give them some pointers as to what was going on. Otherwise, it'd be like, how would they even like figure out like what's happening here? Kind of thing.
Yeah, like I'm fine if there's just like a little bit of backstory of like, oh, like maybe this thing had something to do with it back in the day or whatever. But with him being like this sinister member that's, trying to lead them to this fate and stuff, it's like, oh, okay, that's like, I don't know, feels a bit too much.
Yeah, because I think the movie's saying that despite those attempts, she's still going to like try to merge with Tim because that's who she's actually connected to emotionally. So I think that's why they're connected to each other and trying to merge. And obviously it keeps escalating where before she takes any of the water, because the reason why she goes to the teacher's house is to apologize for a weird incident that day at school. So let's rewind. What was the weird incident that day at school? So she drops Tim off at the train station and he starts having one of his weird panic attacks, and it's like he needs her, right? He's like, drawn to her. So he kind of just leaves all of his stuff at the train station. Like he's got like a guitar and some like, amplifiers and whatever. And he just starts kind of like walking like a zombie almost all the way to her school. So he shows up at her work at her school. And a school, in America these days, it's kind of a weird place for you to just show up randomly.
Yeah.
So
especially if you're like not a parent or anything.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. So she notices him outside the window and she's like, wait a minute, what's going on? Luckily, she's not got a class that second. She's sort of just doing paperwork or whatever. And she kind of runs out and she sort of like rushes him into like the nearest bathroom, which as we find out a bit later is like the boys' bathroom. Not the like the men's bathroom, the boys' bathroom, because obviously they'd have specific bathrooms for the kids. And like he's obviously acting weird, but it gets passionate where he's like, I need you right now. And because she spent the whole movie feeling unwanted by him, this does kind of elicit a reaction. So they start kissing, they burst into the cubicle and shut the door so they're at least kind of private. And of course, at this moment, I'm like, okay, obviously you're just with each other, so whatever, but this is a school for like middle school kids, and you're a teacher who just got a job here who's having sex in the bathroom. I feel like I started to feel almost like kind of uneasy in a cringy way where I'm like, oh God, someone's going to catch them. This is going to look so bad. But they have sex in the cubicle.
Well, yeah, like she mentions it later, but it's like, it's not even so bad as like, I could possibly get fired. It's like that could also like, I don't know, like, I don't know the exact repercussions, but like I don't know, it could be like a felony or something if like you're potentially exposing yourself in front of like children. Like there's a lot of like really bad stuff that could come with that.
Yeah, at the very least, I think she would be blacklisted from ever working at a school ever again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because because sure enough, eventually there's once they're finished, right? Because they just they're standing up, they've done the deed, and the horror movie part of this is that when he tries to pull out, he can't. So we actually and they're like, oh, that hurts. So what's going on? And there's a shot where the camera actually like sort of like you see like kind of like part of his dick kind of try to pull away and it can't. And I'm like, okay, this is, as much as obviously that might sound a bit grotesque, like, this is kind of what you need though for this scene, is you need a little bit of that body horror of the
Yeah.
Like it's literally stretching in pain because it can't get out. And that's when they hear a noise, and there's like two little like feet, like clearly just outside the cubicle, and they're like trying to stay quiet. And the feet go away, and then she eventually just says like, "Tim, I'm sorry." And he's like, "What?" And she just pushes him like as hard as she can, and clearly it hurts. Like it hurts him being pulled out. But then of course, like, this is when the teacher that we've met, Jamie, is brought in by the boy, and he's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And she kind of like doesn't say much. She just kind of implies that she like was in a rush and she had to run to the nearest bathroom. And then he sees a bit of blood like dripping from her leg. So the implication to him is that, oh, this is, you know, her time of the month, and it was like a bad case of it, and she had to run off. And he just kind of accepts that. He clearly sees, though, as he's leaving, like a foot come down inside the cubicle. So the audience knows that he's more aware than he's letting on to her. But this is the incident. This is why she goes over to try and like apologize, and that's why he gives her water and tells her some backstory about the cult. He's like, "Oh yeah, I think there was a cult out there or something." Blah 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 blah. So, and we find out that he used to have a husband that's not around. He never actually says what happened to him, like where he went, why he left. Is he dead? Did they split up? We don't know. Turns out they fused together as part of this cult and their rituals, and he's actually kind of an amalgamation of the two people we see in the photographs, like the two young guys. He's actually kind of both of them, not just one of them, like you would immediately assume. So
yeah,
that's where the movies go. But it's after this where it starts getting proper crazy, where like even though they're sleeping in different rooms, they start just like pulling towards each other. They're both sliding like across the floor, and they're trying to like hold on to the walls to like not, because she doesn't believe him. He tries to explain, "Hey, I've been researching this, and I've been researching this couple that went missing, and all this stuff's happening, and we need to like, you know, not like we have to try and figure this shit out." And she's like, "Stop making stuff up. You're crazy, Tim. Stop talking about all this. Blah 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 blah." And then obviously though, by the time this has all happened, where they're literally dragging towards each other, like I think it's the next morning when she's about to saw their arms like separately. She's like, "Oh, by the way, you were definitely right. I'm sorry," but
yeah.
but it's actually this scene where they're being drawn towards each other across the floor where I really got annoyed at the attempts at humor, because they're dragging towards each other. They're trying to like stop, and don't get me wrong, it's a little silly visually because of what's happening, but it works in the context of what's going on. But when they actually sort of like get towards each other and their hands like are starting to fuse together, and it's kind of icky and all that, he's like, "Hey, try and get it to that drawer. I've got like some Xanax," which, by the way, earlier on the doctor said it's not called that anymore, and he kind of repeats the doctor's line here as if that was meant to be funny. That's not what I was going to complain about, but that also was a bit weak. Basically, the pills all fall out onto the floor when they're able to get the bottle opening, and they start just like, you know, with their other free hand, just start taking these pills. And then eventually halfway through, he just says, "It'll be quicker if we start it." And he starts smashing the pills so he can snort them. And I'm like, that wasn't funny. I feel like this is like, I can almost just feel in the writer's room, like the writer director being a bit of a douchebag and thinking this is like so funny and like Hollywood. And I'm like, I don't know, like I felt like this attempt at humor in the middle of what's supposed to be at that point in the movie the biggest, most dramatic, creepy scene of like their hands starting to properly fuse together, and you can see like his fingers sort of sticking out of her arm a little bit, and you know it's doing all this stuff, and then you're kind of undermining it with this attempt at comedy. I don't know. I just didn't think it was that good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was that funny, but at least it would have felt more acceptable if, I don't know, the movie had more jokes or one-liners or whatever beforehand. Like, you know, there's a few things sprinkled here and there. Like you said, I guess that, you know, some of the doctor stuff was supposed to be funny or whatever, but I don't, for the most part, the movie is like so serious that, yeah, when they do start to do like stuff like this, it feels more out of place than, you know, anything.
Yeah, I mean, there was at least one other dream sequence before this. There was also, you kind of brought up the scene where Alison Brie, her first sort of magnetism is her like coming to like the frosted glass door and kind of banging against it, and that was a creepy, effective scene. I thought it looked good. Yeah. You know, I think the director's not bad at directing the horror stuff when he's just doing that. So yeah. Anyway, though, they kind of realize in the morning, hey, we're out of those pills, and those are muscle relaxants, which is what's keeping us from merging. We're going to run out soon, though. We really have to, go and try and like deal with this, get more, or figure something out. Also, I think they also, when they wake up, their arms are like fused together, and this sort of gets us back to the like they set up earlier on. There was this like jigsaw style tool that like was with his stuff because it was his dad's or something. And she's like, hey, a little whiskey for the pain. I'm going to cut her arms free now. I thought they shied away a little bit from actually showing it, though. I thought there was going to be a lot more like visual gore here of her splitting her arms apart.
Yeah, because, I mean, it is such a... Yeah, I feel like what's selling the movie is, or should be, the body horror. And then I feel like there's not... It doesn't go as, like, gruesome as I really wanted to. Like, that should have been a really gnarly scene, but like you said, they just kind of cut as soon as she starts cutting, and then it just cuts to them like on opposite ends of the room or whatever.
Do you know, they also established something by this point, because she says she can feel the booze, because she's like giving him booze for the pain, and then she's like, oh, I better do this because I'm starting to feel a little drunk from you drinking. They established that they can kind of feel what the other one's feeling now, because of this like connection between them. And I thought, oh, that's going to be like used in a really cool way, potentially. Like, we're going to have a thing where he knows she's in trouble because she's scared, and he's going to feel it and go and like maybe rescue her, and maybe that'll be a heartwarming thing that he's like fighting to save her or something, And I just don't feel that they actually used it for anything really. No. After they established it, I thought it was just a bit of a waste. In all honesty.
It's also kind of funny that like it kind of feels like the big thing they're worried about is, she keeps saying like, my parents are coming over on Sunday, like we have to like fix this, and it's like, I don't know, I think there are more things to be concerned about. Like I don't know, like it's kind of crazy to me that at no point did they like even really consider like calling a doctor or anything. Like I don't think I'm forgetting anything. Like there's never any discussion about that, right?
I think they talk about going to the hospital after they've separated their arms, where she's like, oh, we need to go do this. And then I can't remember what stops them from doing it, though. They go out to the car and they changed their mind for some reason. Oh, no, they don't change their mind. They don't change their mind. She left her keys at the teacher's place the previous day, and she goes to go get her keys. So they don't actually decide against going to the hospital. He doesn't want to, though. She's the one that's saying we need to go to the hospital. We just sawed our arms apart. We have to go to the hospital. But the movie like never gives them time to actually reconsider that or actually go beyond that point.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just wild to me that, like, I don't know, if I woke up like fused to someone, the first thing I would do would be like call like 911, because it's like, yeah, like,
oh,
someone,
sure.
I mean, I know there's a sense of urgency, but at the same time, I'm like, all right, we need a professional doctor here to do this or whatever.
I think I should try to sell the panic and their desperation to just fix it as quickly as possible. So you're right, they probably should have thought of that before they started sawing themselves apart. But they do at least. She at least wants to go to the hospital after that. Like, okay, let's go get these things patched up. Let's go, like, get disinfected and like so on and so on. And this is actually the scene where she says, "Don't do anything stupid, Tim," because she knows that he wants to go and investigate the cave,
right,
and try and figure things out. And I did laugh at her saying that line, "Don't do anything stupid, Tim." But that wasn't because it was funny in the movie. That was just funny because I know you. And then, like, as soon as she's out of sight, he just starts running in the other direction, which also made me laugh because I just imagined, like, oh, this is Tim and Melissa's marriage. Like, she says, "Don't do anything stupid, Tim," and then as soon as she leaves the house, he's like, I don't know, like buying a 7-foot statue of Hellboy or something to go in the living room.
It's not far off. Yeah.
So yeah, he goes to investigate the cave and ends up finding some symbols and stuff of this like cult, but also that couple that went missing is still down there, like half fused together. So this is maybe the most body horror you get, is like kind of this weird monstrosity of the two fused people. However, there's like a knife sticking in the neck at one side. So the implication, I think, is that this couple couldn't finish fusing because one of them was dead. Like, the husband clearly tried to kill himself during this, and because of that, it can never finish. And the wife of this couple, sadly, is kind of like in this horrible form and just begging for death. So we get a little bit where this is chasing, like this combination, this fusion of people is chasing him. And while that's happening, though, like Alison Brie is going through the guy's house and seeing this videotape of the weird cult wedding and the fusing together. And I mean, again, like I think the horror part of the scene is well directed, and that you realize at a certain point, oh, he's standing behind her. Like I thought that part of it was well done from like just a visual standpoint. But I agree that at this point it was kind of laying on the backstory a bit thick, especially since he never comes back into the movie after this scene. Like he like grabs her arm and like cuts it, right? Because he's like, oh, this will make the fusion it'll happen quicker. But he clearly wants to merge with her, and she just kind of like hits him away and makes a run for it. I thought, oh, he's going to show up again in the big finale and has to be dealt with as like the villain in the movie. But he just kind of that's him. Like he's out of the movie at this point. After he's like, I think he's been like, I don't know if she stabs him maybe once or something, but like she doesn't like do a killing blow though. I thought he was going to come stumbling in for the final set pieces, but fair enough.
I'm glad you mentioned that thing about the knife in the hiker's neck, because I don't think I caught that when I was watching it, and then I was actually talking to my wife after the movie, and that was one thing I was like, well, I don't really understand how comes they presumably they'd been probably fusing before them, so why are they still like all this weird half monstrosity? And she mentioned the knife thing too, so I was like, oh, okay, I guess that would make sense if you can't do it if one person is like dead halfway through or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how much this movie over-explains the relationship stuff, but kind of does leave that a little bit ambiguous, which I don't necessarily mind. Like, I'm fine with that being something that you have to figure out or think for yourself. It's not a huge deal, but it is just kind of funny because of how over-explained like everything else in the movie is.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, I didn't feel like the cave was that huge. So, like, I don't know, was that hiker thing just like chilling that first time
I had
that they fell in the cave?
Exact same feeling. I'm like, you were here for like 16 hours last time, just chilling with Alison Brie, and somehow this monstrosity who was just in the corner, like never like made a noise or came out and said hello. That just kind of felt like a plot contrivance to me. Is like, but whatever. Like, at least the movie's problems. So they both get back to the house, and he's like holding this knife, and he's basically saying, hey, the only way one of this ends is for one of us to die. So he's basically saying, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to finally set you free because I've been holding you back. Which, yeah, he has. Like, that's been kind of the big theme of the movie, right? And she's like, no, don't do it. But as she's getting close to him, she's kind of starting to bleed out because that's cutting her arms like down her wrist, basically. So it's like, it's a kill wound. And they're kind of like professing all these things, and he's saying, no, I need to do this and let's set you free. I've been holding you back, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, playing off all the emotional stuff. But it's also doing this thing where the movie's expecting us to finally sort of go, oh, he's learned all of his lessons. He's learned that he's finally realized how in love with her he is, and that he's been a bit of a shit this whole time. But it's kind of like just too little too late, where I'm like, I just don't care. Like, he's been such a shitty boyfriend all movie. That I just can't get behind or like buy into this idea that I'm happy about the love conquering and them, like, because the whole ending of the movie is that he like holds her as she seems to be dying. It's like, oh wait, is she going to be the one that dies and he gets to live? That sucks. But then it cuts to like them inside, and it turns out that to stop the bleeding, he put his hand over it so that if his hand fused with her arm, and that stopped the bleeding from happening because everything kind of merged together. And it's like, oh, okay, so where are we going with this? And because she told the story earlier about one of the first romantic things he ever did, because she met this guy, thought he was a music snob, but said that her favorite like band was the Spice Girls, right? Which again, very millennial. It's not the only. I'll get to the other millennial thing, which is kind of like right at the very end. But he pulls out the vinyl of the Spice Girls album, the main one, and puts it on. And we get this thing where they're sort of dancing to the Spice Girls romantic ballad. Because part of me thought, wait, is Wannabe going to start playing? That doesn't feel like it fits the scene. But no, it's the song When Two Become One, which I did not remember the name of. It was only because of the context of the scene I went, wait a minute, isn't this song called When Two Become One? Which obviously is, again, very on the nose, but, fine. So So the movie basically ends with them saying, "Hey, do you want to just like do this?" And obviously at this point, the metaphor of this like, connecting is like, oh, this is them finally like becoming like a proper couple and getting married. Is like finally admitting that they're becoming one unit. And so they're literally fusing into one person. So we get this insane scene where they both strip down and their entire bodies start to fuse together. This is where like the effects have been fine up until this point, but I think you were getting at that this, because this is their entire bodies, the CG feels a bit like, this just feels like a little bit.
I thought it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like the leading up to it, I thought was perfectly fine when like the hands are kind of going into the arms and stuff. But yeah, once it's like one body with two heads and as that kind of far away shot, I was like, oh, this is like not good.
And they're kissing here as they're embracing, and their eyelashes are starting to connect, which that's on the poster.
That was cool.
Yeah. So yeah, this is your big climax, and like I thought, oh, it's just going to cut to black or whatever, but there's a little tag scene where her parents show up because they've been telling us they're coming for dinner on Sunday, right? So her parents show up to the door. There's now one of the cult bells at the door, right? And maybe it was always there and we just didn't notice it, but the camera really focuses on it, and it's like, hey, they've merged, they've become a solid unit, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like, who's going to open the door here? If they like merged into one person, like how's that going to make sense to the parents? Like, it's fine for the metaphor, it's fine for the metaphor of the movie and like the idea that, oh, it's about a couple finally committing to each other and becoming one, entity, right? That's kind of what's literally happened. And then we open the door, and yeah, we get this one person who's meant to be a fusion of the both of them, which I think was Alison Brie with some bushy eyebrows and like a wig put on her. And that's what the movie cuts to well, not quite. It skips ahead a little bit. Actually, I think it's before she answers the door. There's like a little moment where earlier on, when he was investigating the couple that disappeared, he was looking up their social media, and they have a whole conversation about, oh, when I die, make sure you scrub all my social media, because like I don't want people to look up my page and see my last post as like, hey, look at this cat pic, or whatever. And they do a thing where they look at, okay, if you died tomorrow, what would your last post be? And it's them in front of the house saying, hey, we took the plunge. And he's like, hey, it's not that bad if it's that's the one. He's like, yeah, it's kind of sad though, right? Like if this is the last one, is us saying we're finally taking this plunge to get a house together, and then immediately we die. So at the end of the movie, because the internet's not been turned on, they've just been using like a dongle, and like they've got minutes. The internet's shut off at one point. At the end of the movie, before the door opening scene, the camera goes over to the laptop and it springs back. Like it goes from no internet connection and it springs back onto like Facebook, and it's that post saying we took the plunge. This was the other thing that felt super millennial to me, is them talking about their social media posts and what are people going to see if we die suddenly. I was like, yeah, this feels like a very specific. I mean, and not that social media has gone away, and obviously the youngsters are all using their TikToks and their whatever else they're doing with their time, but it felt like a very specific like generation made this movie, right? And it happens to be our generation, to be fair, but I still kind of feel like, grew up with the Spice Girls, obsessing over the Facebook stuff. I don't know. It was kind of feeling, again, just laid on a bit thick. I've used that phrase a lot during this review, but I really feel like it was laid on a bit thick. Anyway, I rambled there about the last like 3 scenes. Thoughts on all this ending stuff?
Yeah, I think, there's some good body horror stuff. Like one nice little touch I thought is like, that you literally start seeing the blood like start to like crawl towards, which I was like, oh, okay, that's like a nice little
that's how he notices like she's got the wound in her arm, because he looks down and he sees the blood sort of coming for him, so he sort of follows the trail back up with his eyes. I thought, yeah, that's a nice little touch. I like that.
I do think it does make the whole like metaphor theme of the movie kind of weird to me, because the relationship is so shitty, and then it like it doesn't like you're kind of saying, like it doesn't feel like, maybe you just don't care enough, or the movie doesn't go far enough, but it doesn't really redeem itself to make you think that this relationship is worth saving. So it kind of just makes the like point of the movie seem to be like, if you're in a shitty relationship, just stick it out and stay together. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to like, something about overcoming odds or whatever. So I don't know, it just kind of feels weird to me.
I actually really hate the final scene, like the very final scene where the parents come and we see like the fused person, because if your movie's going to do this thing where you go all in the metaphor, right? Because some movies don't do this, some movies do, and sometimes it's very good, sometimes it's not. It just kind of depends on the context. It's very case by case. But this idea that by the end you kind of let go of reality almost, and you just let the metaphor become the main thing. And I think ending on them fusing together is like a sort of like metaphor for them finally committing to each other. That's not a literal thing. It's a very much a metaphor for something, and doesn't really make sense in the context of actually living life, right? Which is why it's a metaphor. But by having that scene afterwards where the parents come, and it's like, no, this fused person is living in the world and has to explain to her parents, like, who this new person is, it just kind of muddies it all up and makes it feel like, okay, so what are you saying then about this person, this fused combination of like Tim Millie Tim Timily, like how does that work?
It just raises way too many questions. Like, obviously, like, what the hell are your parents going to say? Like, first they're gonna be like, who are you? And I guess good luck trying to explain that or whatever.
You look kind of like our daughter to an extent.
And then I thought it was like pretty stupid. Like, again, talking about how there's not really much subtlety. Like you said, they have the cult bell on their door now, which is fine. Like, that's like a little nod or whatever. But the fact that like the dad had to ring it, like, no one rings bells like that when you come to someone's house. Like, you would just knock, or if they have a doorbell or something, like, but again, it's just like another thing where it's like just trying to beat you over the head with like, are you noticing this thing that we set up here? It's just, I don't know, it's just really weird.
I mean, some of these are specific like things in different scenes. I think that the biggest problems though is like, one, like, rein it in a bit, be a little bit more subtle and nuanced about the relationship subtext, because it's just so thick the entire time that it's kind of overbearing in the movie, and it does add to this feeling of like, they don't really, like, I don't want them to get better and be happy. I don't think they belong together at a certain point, which leads into the other problem is like, give us a little bit more happiness with them, either like sprinkled throughout, like give us examples of why they got together in the first place. This would be less elegant, but you could also maybe do a few flashbacks to when they were like, give us like the scene of them first meeting, give us a scene of them having a romantic night together for the first time or something. Like, give us the other side of it a little bit to try and make us go, this is why, like, we should be rooting for them in some way. But like, because it'd be one thing if the movie sort of they gave us this thing where he does, because the movie makes it very clear that he just doesn't really want to move here. He doesn't want to be the house husband to her teacher life. He doesn't want any of this. Like, the movie like is screaming that in your face. And I think if it was more, no, he actually does want to do this, and he's not feeling nervous about coming here, but he still feels sad that he's maybe given up some of his music life. Like, that would be a bit more, even. It'd be a bit more like, oh, he's conflicted. Like, he does want some of this, but he doesn't necessarily feel like he's ready to give up everything else. That could at least be like, okay, so he's not all bad. There's definitely like, there's something more human here that's kind of pulling between two things.
Yeah, like there's definitely doesn't really seem to be any like scenes of him actually trying to make it work. And like, like even the sex scene that you kind of like, not the one at the school, but like when they were in bed, like you mentioned before, it's so quick, but like you could have showed him maybe trying to make an attempt to go along with it, and then kind of be like, I'm sorry, I just can't, and whatever. But like, at no point does he ever really seem to try to be making like anything work, which I don't know, just makes him like very mopey, sad sack, which which is not like an interesting or engaging character to follow. So I just felt kind of annoyed by him throughout most of the movie. Yeah,
it's the sort of thing where like they only did one of the things they did in the first 10 minutes to set up that he's got reservations about this relationship moving forward, right? You can either have he has the conversation with the brother and clearly wants to stay and be in the band instead, but is otherwise very much nice to her, and it's just sort of there to linger in the background. You can have some sort of proposal that he does not like respond to. That would work. you could have a couple of things like, oh, he's not having sex with her, and it's clear that that's been a recurring thing. But it doing all of those in like quick succession back to back, it all just screams they should not be together anymore. And the movie starts me off in a they should break up, and it never changes my mind. It never gives me a single thing the entire time that makes me go, oh no, they should try and work it out. I'm rooting for these two crazy kids. So
yeah. And at no point in the movie was I like, oh, these two people should be fused together into one being.
I mean, to be fair, you should always feel that way. Unless we're doing like a Megazord type thing, perhaps. Like, I don't think you should ever be hoping for that. So, yeah. No, I guess, I mean, I like the whole talking about it laying the metaphor on it kind of like, I guess the extension to that and how it makes me feel is that it feels like the movie thinks it's smarter than it actually is, and it kind of left me with a feeling of, oh, it's a little bit up its own ass. Like, that's how I kind of feel by the end.
Yeah. I don't know. I do think for the most part the movie is well directed. So I don't know. Maybe Mr. Shanks, like, yeah, maybe he just needs to like work with another writer instead of writing it himself or something.
Maybe,
because,
yeah.
Like none of the problems ever really came to be like from like the look or whatever of the movie. So I don't know. Maybe if he had someone else like do the script, this could have been something kind of cool. But said it wasn't.
Elegantly put. Elegantly put. So yeah, also just worth mentioning here before we wrap up, in May, there was like a lawsuit put in from people who claimed the idea of the movie was stolen from them. So that's still not a thing that's like concluded. So like, it's possible, like the courts will decide eventually that this is plagiarized and this was stolen from other people who pitched the idea. I didn't really want to bring it up at the start. I didn't want this to be like something that was lingering over the discussion. I wanted to just judge the movie as it is. But just worth mentioning, that's the thing. So it could be a case like down the line where we find out that there's some controversy here that's a bit more potent.
Yeah, that's right. Because I do remember hearing something about that, but I didn't really know the extent of it. And then, yeah, honestly, I kind of forgot about it. And then, I mean, definitely would be interesting to see, like, how that ends up. Because, again, it did feel like a very unique story. So, I mean, it's not out of, the realm of possibility for two people to have, like, the same idea or whatever. But, like we were kind of saying before, like this did sound like a pretty unique premise, so I don't know, like, yeah, it might be kind of, I don't know, it might be something to it if it's kind of weird that some people just automatically both thought of like the same thing or whatever.
Yeah, the guy who like he pitched the idea to at least Franco, and he wrote like he registered his first draft in 2019, and he actually made a movie based on his idea called Better Half that came out in 2023, which I had not heard of. So there is like another version of this idea apparently that exists from a couple of years ago. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But this does seem a bit fishy if he pitched it to them specifically.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then they've went on and made this movie, and apparently like he wanted at least Brie to star in it, and it was turned down because she wanted to produce the movie herself and like be more involved with it. So it does seem a little fishy. So I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, that does sound kind of bad because like I was just assuming it was something where like they made the movie and then someone came out and was like, hey, that's similar to a movie I wrote. But yeah, if it's like, well, no, I specifically talked to these people about this idea and stuff, it's like, oh, okay, it doesn't seem like the best light.
Yeah, it was pitched to the pair of them to star, but they rejected because they wanted to produce it themselves and have someone hire a writer from the material. And obviously now there's two movies to compare. So I don't know if that other movie's any good. It'd be interesting to see it and see how similar it is. So hey, worth mentioning. All right, Tim, what are you rating Together out of 10?
So there's some cool stuff in the movie. You know, I think I really didn't like the characters, but I don't think that's a fault of the performers. I thought they did a good job. It has some good direction. Like it looks fine. It sounds fine. Um, but man, it's just weird how some of the stuff like just really lets you down. So I don't know. I'm kind of right down the middle with this one. I think I'm gonna go a straight five. Yeah, cause it's weird. Like I don't know if I necessarily liked it, but like I mean I didn't hate it. Like I didn't think it was horrible or that it made me mad or anything. But yeah, there's just like a lot of stuff that I wish they would have changed or didn't focus on. So it could have let the other stuff that was good like shine more. So I don't know. It is kind of a weird mix of a movie, but I mean at the same time, like I can't be too negative on it. Like yeah, but yeah, I mean, again, it's probably out of theaters for like a lot of people, so I wouldn't recommend rushing out to it. But I think it's like a perfectly fine movie to watch once it's on a streamer or something. But yeah, kind of a disappointment, especially because I feel like we had some like pretty good stuff lately, that we've been watching, and this one was a little bit down there.
It's funny because I feel like I had all the problems that I had when I finished the movie, but I kind of came out of it thinking, you know what, that there was enough good things in there that I think it was a decent watch, even though I do have problems, and I think it drags itself down with all the things that we've talked about. But I was still kind of coming out of it thinking there was maybe a six-ish type movie, just because the horror stuff is fairly well directed, the premise is fairly unique. I did enjoy a number of the sequences. Talking about it, I do wonder if like maybe I'm leaning a bit more in the sort of like closer to where you're at. Maybe I'll go 5.5 to split the difference and kind of put it there. Which is to say that I think it just gets over the halfway mark because there was enough good directed scenes and the premise is good enough that I can't be like super harsh or negative on it. But I do think it gets in its own way with its overwriting. It's like spelling out things to the audience as far as its themes, and it just that being a hammer that's beating you over the head with how like unhappy the relationship is. I think you can like establish those things, but not to the point where it's like all you're thinking about in terms of the movie. But yeah, so I'm gonna go with that. I mean, that said, though, I mean, there's been a good range of horror movies this year so far. There's been, and a lot of them making good money, getting good buzz. So I can't be mad. This was at least a more interesting movie than like a Wolfman or a whatever other crap we've done as well. Can I just say, like, I usually like pay attention to the trailers because I enjoy a good movie trailer. Who doesn't? But I actually just kept my headphones on this time because every single trailer is the exact same as what I got when I went to see Weapons like last week. So I'm like, yeah, like because it's another horror movie just a week later, I'm like, I'm going to get the exact same trailers. It's going to be Conjuring 4, it's going to be Black Phone 2, it's going to be Strangers Chapter 2, and I forget what the other one was, but yeah, it was all the exact same ones I was expecting.
Well, what's funny is actually I got a couple of new trailers here that I hadn't seen before.
Ooh.
So when we got in, the trailers were already playing, and they started with him, or at least that was the first one we walked in, which I'd seen a bunch of times already. But then they had one which I don't think I'd heard of before, but I don't think it looks very good. But it's called Bone Lake. I don't know if you saw that one.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen the trailer for him even either. Yeah, they've not shown me that one.
Oh,
yet.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I've been seeing that one a lot. I'm intrigued by it, but at this point I'm kind of like done with the trailer. Like, okay, I've seen this so much. Yeah, it's I don't know. Like, it looks like it could be kind of bone like it could just be like generic or whatever. But who knows? I'm sure we'll find out eventually. And then another one which I'm a bit more intrigued by. I don't know if it'll be good, but it's called Shelby Oaks. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I have heard of this one because it's the one that a YouTuber made.
Okay.
Chris Struckman, I think his name is. He does like movie reviews on YouTube. He directed that. So
Okay. So I mean, I don't know if it will be good, but I mean, this doesn't necessarily like mean anything, but sometimes this does pique my interest in movies when they start having a bunch of like quotes on it. So like, you know, this one, it must have showed somewhere else because they had like all these pull quotes like, oh, like, yeah, Chris Tuckman or Stuckman, whatever, is like the new voice of horror, and like, oh, this movie will get under your skin, and obviously that can be like embellished and you know, just like a lot of hype and stuff. But I don't know, when I see that kind of stuff, like I do take a bit more notice of it versus just like a, you know, straight trailer that looks bad or whatever. So I mean, I wouldn't say I'm hyped for that one, but I am intrigued by it. And then the last one, which we knew was coming, but I don't think I'd actually seen the trailer for it yet. But the new Osgood Perkins one, I forget, is it The Keep or The Keeper?
oh yeah, I've not seen that yet. I just checked, by the way, because you said you'd be getting him a bunch and I hadn't. I was like, I bet that's got a different release date, and yeah, I get it like 4 weeks after you, so that'll be when we wait for VOD, I think.
Okay.
Oh, the other trailer I keep getting is The Long Walk, which we all do as well, but I keep getting
nice.
that trailer. Yeah, I'm just sick of getting trailers for sequels that I'm not interested in. I mean, we'll do them obviously, like Black Phone 2 and Conjuring 4, but I'm not expecting to like that either of them that much.
Yeah, it wasn't as big a deal when like it wasn't going out to the theater as much, but now that I've been going like sometimes like once a week, it is kind of annoying when you're just getting the same ones over and over again. And it wouldn't be a problem if they just show 3 trailers before a movie, but when it's like 40 minutes of them.
I mean, they only show 4 trailers before the movie. Like everything before that's all ads, just commercials. So you only get 4 trailers before a movie here. It's pretty much always been that way, as far as I can remember. But it's been a really busy summer for movies, because if I'm not doing a movie with you and going to see like a horror movie, I've had other things to go see for other shows, whether it's Superman or Naked Gun or your Jurassic Park even. Like, there's been something almost every week for like all summer, which is good. I like having movies to go see, but yeah, it's been a lot. So I'm actually looking forward to having a few weeks of of no movie theater trips, and then we've got a couple in September, even without him, which I think we won't be able to do right away. And then maybe we'll have something in October. I don't know. October's just blocked out as Octoberthon. There's nothing like specific written in there yet. It's just a big block. So, anywho.
I'm trying to think if there's going to be any like really big heavy hitters in October. Yeah, you always kind of think there should be, but then I feel like probably just get a lot of like studio dribble.
Yeah, maybe that'll be the least interesting time of the year horror-wise, bizarrely. Anyway, I think that can wrap up the show. We went on rambling about upcoming movies a little bit. But let us know what you thought of this movie. Of course, you can support the show, support Screams After Midnight, as well as the other shows we do in MailFuzz Movies, over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, or via becoming a YouTube member. But you get bonus segments, even more streams where we do little top 5s and little bonus discussions and things like that. Most weeks, and then there's also a back catalogue of bonus episodes, and we're planning on doing another bonus episode before the Octoberthon, so you should get one probably early September. So look out for that, where we do sort of sillier movies, usually anyway, sillier movies. But yeah, you get bonuses for other shows and all that. Give us a nice rating on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. Give us 5 stars, drag the average up. All of that really does help. But that is the show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.